Good morning and welcome to the final of the Beast Tribe bonus episodes for Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reread. Today we are going to be reading all of the Ixal quests because these are the only Beast Tribe quests that I have not done anything on stream for, which means we have to go through all of them today. One small thing to go through before we dive right in. One of the things about Ixal quests that makes them a little unwieldy for gathering all of the dialogue is that depending upon who you get the quests from, you will have to go talk to specific people to make use of crafting facilities. And when you do so, oftentimes the dialogue that you have with that particular crafting person is the same between every single version. With that in mind, I will be mentioning who you go talk to for these particular quests, and if the dialogue is different, or if it's the first time we are hearing that particular dialogue from that character, I will read it out, but otherwise, I will ignore it. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. The first quest that we have to go through is called Deliverance. The XIV Manciple has a job fit for an adventurer, which most likely means fetching something.
Scraw! Our supplies dwindling they are. A featherless one we seek. A featherless one to fill our houses of wares. Master Rosal demands swiftness he does. Ever prudent he is. Scraw! Which items are dwindling, you ask? Why, all featherless nuker, but some more than others. Which some more than others? No, this one does not. No, the foreman does. Upon talking to the XIV foreman, with whom you donate your things, he says, Scraw! Long is my list, deep is our need.
And after filling your quota,
Scraw! Scraw! Met is your quota. Crates they are full. Report to the Manciple you must. Hurry, you must.
And doing that,
Scraw! Featherless nuker you came. A featherless friend you left. Hear of your deeds the chieftains shall. Scraw!
Trust, but verify. Many would deign to call themselves able, but Yazel Ahautan, the Able, goes so far as to claim it as his title.
Squahaha! An able crafter featherless one is? Not so able as Yazel, I think. Yet prove me wrong you may, and aid Ectel in so doing. Leather and canvas used to craft an airship bladder we require. A simple task for a featherless one as skilled as you, Yazel trusts. A skilled craftswoman and listener both, Yazel hopes you are. For aid of a featherless chatterbox you require to use those materials. Squawk! For this component, the facilities of Demeter you must utilize. Upon speaking to this lovely chatterbox, she says, Oh my, you wish to use these facilities? They are lovely, aren't they? I do my utmost to keep them in tip-top condition, you know. Regular cleaning and maintenance is far more essential than most people realize. However, as much as I'd love to let you do so, I must ask that you do something in exchange. Worry not, it's nothing too difficult, just a simple favor. I do often have to clean up after you, you know. And know you of Opa-Opos, dreadful little scamps, always stealing my Muntui beans. One in particular has given me no end of trouble, and I will suffer it no longer. Pray, use these ripe beans to lure him out from his lair near Eartat's Spire and end his reign of terror. And though it's a grisly thing to ask, I must insist that you return with proof of the deed. A fang, a claw, or something of that nature. Nothing too large, mind you. I don't want it as a trophy to hang on my wall. I'm not a monster. If you speak with Demeter before you leave, she offers you this little antidote. Truth be told, I've no real desire to see proof of the deed. However, I've been deceived before, not to imply that you're a liar like that adventurer was, of course. You see, he came here with you the other day, like you, he wished to use these facilities. I told him, as I told you, that I would gladly permit him to do so if first he dealt with a certain Opa-Opa. So off he went for a better part of the day, eventually returning to report the deed was done. Naturally, I was beside myself with joy, and I went to bed that night thinking that the Opa-Opa was no more and all was right with the world. Needless to say, I was very cross when I awoke to find my stores pilfered yet again, and the ground stained with copious amounts of saliva, incontrovertible evidence that my sworn enemy yet lived. I made my mind then and there to give that adventurer a piece of my mind, especially once I learned he had spent that afternoon drinking in a pub instead of tracking my Opa-Opo. But despite learning of his nefarious deeds, I never was able to track him down, which was surprising given how queer a fellow he was. He had onions tied to his belt, which I don't need to tell you is very unusual. When I asked them about him, he said it was the style of the time and he was growing up and he'd always have a fondness for his grandfather's ways. And as Demeter struggles to recall if the onions were white or yellow,
your mind begins to wander. Anyway, the ripe muntoi beans that she gives you read, in the case of muntoi beans, the riper they are, the more pungent they become. The more pungent they become, the better chance they have of being found and devoured by a hungry opa-opo. Upon defeating the opa-opo, and returning to Demeta with the bladder component materials, which read, materials required to craft components for an airship's bladder envelope, and the simian claw, which reads, the curved claw of an opa-opo who tried to eat one muntoi bean too many. Demeta says, as I told you before, you are more than welcome to make use of these facilities, provided you deal with that dastardly opa-opo first. Oh, and as a precaution, I must actually present your materials for inspection as well. You would be shocked by what some people have tried to make here. My word, is that really... Oh gods, I can't bear to look at it. Take it from my sight and dispose of it. But not in the river. And now then, deep breaths. Though unusual, I don't believe your materials could be used for evil ends. Here you are. You'll note I didn't return them all. There are several times the required materials, it would seem. Whoever entrusted this task to you left a note in the bag. To Featherless Nuker, give only required parts. In case of failure, return spares. What in the world is a nuker? Oh, do you require more time with the facilities? By all means, take as long as you like, and if you require additional materials, let me know. I have plenty here for the Featherless Nuker. And you get to craft the bladder component, which reads, a component to be used in the creating of Dezel Quolan's bladder envelope. Upon returning to Yazil Quolan the Able, he says, Squaha! Return the one who would prove herself able is. Bladder component she has brought? Squaha? Able indeed, Featherless one is. Within you lies great potential, as Chief Totolok said. Potential in Yazil too, the chief once saw. Not wrong in either case. It is more than clear to me. Scraw! Misdirected woo. Able though he may be, there are some situations which Yazil Atalan the Able cannot resolve by himself. Squaw! The one who would be able, come, she his. Then to Yazil lend a hand that we might both escape the claws of the hard. Pluck my posterior bare she shall, if leather-backed plywood for the bladder of lining we do not provide. Able to craft this component himself, Yazil is, were it not for Echtel's dearth of facilities. Squaw! Those of Hurst Mill suffice they shall, but welcome within their walls Yazil is not. With featherless chatterbox, featherless craftswoman should speak. Upon speaking with one featherless chatterbox, Demeta says, I know that look, you've a mind to use these facilities, don't you? It's hardly the first time, suffice it to say. I find it quite flattering, actually, and who wouldn't? That the facilities I've worked so hard to maintain are in such high demand is high praise indeed. However, the same demand means that I cannot allow unrestricted access, I'm sorry to say. Oh, don't look at me like that. Can you imagine the state I would be in if I would let every traveler here have the run of the place? It'd be no better than a pigsty. But worry not. You may use them if you take this lunch to Palamont at Etat Spire. A simple delivery should be no trouble for a strapping adventurer like yourself. Oh, and do remember to bring me any empty containers he may have. I reuse them, you see. One must never be wasteful. Upon speaking to Palamont, he says, God save me, today's the day, isn't it? She'll be here any moment. Is that from Demeta? Thank you. Here, don't forget this. No need for her to come all the way here to fetch an empty sack, am I right? And upon returning to Demeta with the bladder lining components, which read, materials required to craft components for reinforcing an airship's bladder envelope, and the empty meal sack, which reads, it appears the container which once housed a delicious high-and-made meal prepared by Demeta has been licked clean. She says, I do so hope Palamont wasn't disappointed that I couldn't deliver his meal in person. I trust that you brought the empty sack. Oh, and as a precaution, I must ask that you present your materials for inspection as well. You'd be shocked by what some people have tried to make here. My word, would you look at how spotless it is? Nothing more satisfying than seeing that your man, that your friend, didn't leave a single crumb behind. Yes, your materials. And then the same dialogue repeats. Afterwards, you craft a bladder lining component, which reads, a component to be used in creating the Dezel Quolan's bladder envelope lining. And upon returning to Yazil, he says, feathered! My precious posterior yet is, but not for long if featherless craftswoman does not deliver bladder lining component. Squaw! A gift to the Echtel your craftsmanship is, and a gift to Ixali maidens Yazil remains. Squaw! Nothing more than jest my words are, of course. Never would Mefutil harm his tail feathers, Yazil knows. A buzzard to be feared, the heart is. Wear her claws, lest you suffer her wrath as I have. Love a hard woman. Don't put that in the video. Keeping up appearances. As ableist of Ixal. He's an ableist? And here I thought all of the Ixal were progressive. Yazil Ahutan has a reputation to maintain. Scraw! Able though I am, cursed with terrible fortune I am too. Lost to Garuda-worshipping buzzards, materials for constructing urgently required starboard hull components are. Precious materials for preparing leather-backed plywood for the hull, lost to our enemies in tree speak. Scraw! Retrieve the materials myself I would, but able lover Yazel is, not able fighter. Featherless craftswoman and fighter both you are, and more than capable of recovering materials. From storage pots, retrieve the materials, then for crafting to Treespeak Stables you must go. Open to all featherless the facilities there are. Scraha! No need for special favors, there is not. Upon defeating the Ixal and retrieving the starboard hull components from the materials, they read, materials required to craft components, which will comprise the right half of an airship's hull. Upon speaking with Nelamond, he says, greetings, friend. Our doors, assuming we had any, are open to all. You wish to process those materials, yes? If you would first permit me to conduct an inspection? My concern was for naught. These materials are both quality and plentiful. In fact, I have calculated the optimum amount required to craft the components you have in mind. I shall hold on to the excess while you work your synthesizing magic. Pray let me know if you require any replacements. Upon finishing the starboard hull components, they read, a component used in creating the Desel Quillan's starboard hull. And upon returning to Mr. Ableist, he says, Scraw! Suffer the barbs of his comrades, the able cannot. Bring me the starboard hull components you must. Scraw! Safe my reputation is. To featherless craftswoman, much and more is owed. Rejoin the ranks of the buzzards I wish not to do. Much more beloved by maidens Yazel is, as able revolutionary. Women love it when I'm ableist. I don't think that's true, actually. I think women, or at least some of the women I know, are generally not fans of that, so maybe don't do that. Blow ye winds. An able Ixal keeps able allies close, and Yazel Ahutan the able prays, you are one such woman. Ill tidings, featherless craftswoman. Waylaid by featherless ones our carrier has been. Squaha! Trapped at best, dead at worst, Yazel fears. Of the essence time was, so risky route near Treespeak Stables I bade him take. Larboard hull component materials to Ectil he was to bring. For the leather-backed plywood to construct the hull, materials precious and light, nearly depleted our supply is. If yet alive, likely in hiding the carrier is. Know you, for friend he may not, so with the wind to him you must whisper. Words of power they are, known only to Ectil and their allies. Squaha! Upon speaking with the Ectil 9 carrier and whispering sensually, with the wind, into his ear, he says, Squaw! With the wind, featherless Nuker is. Relieved and contrite I am. All Nukers look alike to me, they do. As friend of Ectil, recognize I did not. Deliver the materials in my stead, I would ask, but that alone suffice it will not. Too late this shipment is. Completed components we must now deliver. Scraw! Open to all featherless the facilities of Treespeak Stables are. There, craft 3 larboard hull components, featherless friend can. Other recourse we have not. The larboard hull components you receive read, materials required to craft components with which will comprise the left half of an airship's hull. Upon speaking with Nelon, you receive the same dialogue as before, and upon finishing the larboard hull components, they read, a component to be used in creating the Desel Quillan's larboard hull. And upon returning to Yazel, he says, Scraw! Without component materials, soon halts construction of the Desel Quillan will. Disastrous for Ectil, and Yazel this would be. Scraw! Materials I expected, yet components you have brought. My mind, waylaid courier and featherless crafter did read. Scraha! Initiative Yazel values much in his allies. Who better than able allies to prove Yazel's own ableness, I say? Rise even higher I will, with the aid of featherless craftswoman and her ilk. You have given me more power to be more ableist. Oh no. What have I done? Gyro-driven. Methuli Kalatan, the Hard, is eyeing you for a hard task. You there, no feathers. Helpful you are, yes? Have you craft high-quality components for gyro drive of airship, Methuli will. Know you, Hurian woman, the name of Hildiard, chief of crafting facility at Falgord Float she is. For task make use of her facility you must. Have you go there, Methuli would, and craft wooden patterns for shaping metal plates for gyro drive. 3 sets of these we need. Essential to building of airship they are. But one problem we have. Materials for crafting arrived not. Intercepted by buzzards of logging grounds. Shipment was, and taken to Alder Springs. Retrieve materials from storage pot you must, and use them to make gyro drive components at Falgord Float. The gyro drive component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components for an airship's ceruleum-powered gyro drive. Upon speaking to Hildiard, she says, Hello again, adventurer. Come to avail yourself of our fine facility, I take it. Let's have a look at the materials you've brought. Ooh, yet another curious collection of odds and ends, and a goodly amount besides. So they don't get in your way while you work, I'll hold on to any excess materials until you need them. The crafting space is ready for your use. You may begin whenever you like. Upon completing the gyro drive components, high quality, They read, a component used to be used in creating the Desul-Quillan's gyro drive. Upon returning to Methuli, she says, ah, No Feathers is returned. Good tidings for Methuli you have. Better yet, good components for gyro drive. Scraw! Outdone yourself you have. Most excellent parts these are. One day, from many moms above, laugh at minions of greedy goddess we will. Ixal though you are not, far better than obnoxious buzzards of logging grounds you are. Count you as a sister of Ectil, I do. Of rodents and rigging. Methuli Kalatan the Hard appears hard-pressed to keep her emotions in check. Scraw! Plick! Pluck Methuli dead! Stolen materials for airship rigging Keykurn have. Essential for connecting air bladder and hull rigging is. Without it, airship cannot fly without us. What materials taken? Fibrous plants for making special rope, used to bind rigging cables together. Kept in storage pot they were. After taking pot, flee to Alder Springs, thieving rats did. Go there and retrieve contents No Feathers must. With materials, have you make 2 sets of high-quality rigging components, Methuli would. Go to Fallgord you must, and ask permission of Hildier to use crafting facility. The rigging component materials you retrieve from the Keykurn read, materials required to craft components for airships rigging. And you get the same dialogue from Hildiard after you talk to her, and once you finish crafting the rigging components, they read, a component to be used in creating the Desul-Quillan's rigging. Upon returning to Methuli, she says, retrieve materials you have and made components too. Excellent, show them to Methuli you must. Scraw! Such fine work Methuli rarely sees. Methuli gives compliments more rarely still, but very skillful with hands No Feathers is. Small wonder it is that Chief Totolok regards you as well. With your help, no limit to what Ectil 9 can achieve there is. What evil lurks in the hearts of golems? An unforeseen delay has given Methuli Catalan the Hard cause for concern. Urgent need of high-quality material deck component we have. No Feathers can craft, Methuli knows. Quality oakum for caulking deck seams prepared with special materials. Stolen materials. Actually, stolen not most appropriate word. Shale Golem in Alder Springs made angry by death of clay golems took them, Methuli is told. As trophy? Who knows? Fathom workings of golems' minds, Methuli does not. Sure to summon Shale Golem once more, death of clay golems is. Yet where you must, dangerous if not weakened Shale Golems is. Doused with dissolving agent, he is nothing to fear. Recover materials, I ask, then take to Fallgord Float for crafting. The dissolving agent that you get, which, by the way, it is very important that you use items on enemies in Beast Tribe quests when given them, or otherwise you will have a hard time killing them. Isn't that right, Nico? He's gonna kill me if he sees this. Anyway, it reads, an alchemic solution of extremely high acidity, capable of liquefying the thick protective stone shells of a golem. The deck component materials you get read, materials required to craft components for an airship's main deck. And after speaking with Hildiard and getting the same dialogue and crafting the deck components, they read, a component to be used in creating the Desul-Quillan's main deck. Upon returning to Methuli, she says, deck component you have for me? Done well, No Feathers has. Much impressed Methuli is by No Feathers' crafting and combat skills. A well-rounded individual Methuli also aspires to be. When inscrutable golems will try and steer your materials, no one knows. One Ixal's buzzard. Methuli Catalan is bristling with anger. Begone, No Feathers. Driven mad by incompetent carrier Methuli is. Scraw! Wait. Solution to problem No Feathers could be. Skilled with hands and swift with legs No Feathers is. Craft high-quality leather-bound frame for engine casing, Methuli would ask, but yet to arrive materials have. Lost in Woods carrier is, near Spriggan Dig, most like. Many times before this has happened to Buzzard. High as honor to him you must first say. Know you as friend, only then he will. Upon speaking to the Ectil 9 carrier, he says, with you away! Powerful magics I wield! Prepared to defend myself I am! And upon speaking the code phrase, he says, a friend of Methuli you are! Scrap! Pursued by bloodthirsty whalers I was, but now saved from certain death. Eh? No Feathers and crafter both. Then these materials you take. Make high-quality engine casing component for Methuli. With permission of Hildiard, facilities at Fallgord you can use. To Fallgord you go and take materials. Thankless job, carrier is. So much anger and vitriol if ever any delay. Pluck this, buzzard that. Upon speaking to Hildiard and once again receiving the exact same dialogue, and finishing the engine casing component, it reads, a component to be used in creating the Desul-Quillan's engine casing. Upon returning to Methuli, she says,
Worthless buzzard you found? Then engine casing component you crafted? No feathers is queen among kind, Mithuli say. Splendid work, which will satisfy our needs, this is. Trade 10 worthless buzzards for 1 featherless nuker, Mithuli would. With no feathers help, soar higher than Garuda ever will, XIV shall.
The right tool for the tools. There is work to be done, and Mithuli Catalan thinks you suited to the task.
Scraw! Denied, Mithuli will not be. Crafting of 2 crafting tool components. High quality crafting tool components for XIV, this task no feathers must do. Wrapped handles for handling, Mithuli requests. Crafted with the aid of Falgord Float's facilities. Bought and paid for the materials have been. In care of Adamar they are. To him you must go. Go now!
Upon speaking to Adamar, he says, "Come to fetch the materials on behalf of the Birdmen, are you? Calling me surprised if that respectable folk like yourself are keeping company with that lot. But I ain't one to judge, no sir. Give Mithuli my regards." The crafting tool component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components of tool. What? Sorry. Materials required to craft components of tools required to craft components of other items, such as tools required to craft components of tools. Oh, okay, that was just a really fucked up paragraph. Great. Thanks, game. Upon returning to Mithuli with the tools, she says, "Without tools for tasks, the crafting cannot continue. High-quality components for the tools no feathers must quickly bring. Ever reliable, I say ever reliable no feathers is. In these components much faith will be placed, yet disappointed not once has Mithuli been. Reason to doubt Mithuli has none. Right to trust in you, Chief Totolok was. Above buzzards, XIV will soon soar." And thanks for all the fish. Rosal Catalan the Prudent requests the aid of a skilled disciple of the hand. The Desil Quillan, a cockpit she needs. A fine cockpit with a fine exterior and a thick lining of cloth and leather. Scrap! Keep out of the ball the biting code it shall. Scrap! Require much care in crafting, do such things. Proper equipment one must have, yet proper equipment you do have not. Scrap! Upon favored 9, though, does luck smile. Such equipment close does it lie. At the observatorium it does lie, watched over by featherless one such as you. Templeton, a man most corrupt. Scrap, scrap! Rotten he is, like fallen apple, like fly-blown corpse. Feed his greed you must. Scrap! Fed with saint carp. Scrap! A moth-craving saint carp from the river of Corthus. Feed his greed and facilities yours they shall be. But remember, first his game you must play. Materials he must inspect, approval he must give. Scrap, scrap! The saint carp you fish up reads, closely related to the maiden carp, the saint carp earns its name not for its saintly ways of life, but for the large quantity of fat stored in its body. Fat that is commonly used to craft medicines used by healers of the holy see of Ishgard. And the cockpit exterior component materials you get read, materials required to craft components for the exterior of an airship's cockpit. Upon speaking to Templeton, he says, "Sure, one might say 'tis better to be in here by the warm fire than out in the cold chopping wood with the common folk, but what good is a fire, I ask, without a freshly caught carp to roast over the coals?" "Why, a freshly caught carp to roast over these coals! How very thoughtful of you. The astrologians will be pleased as punch. What, you believe these tender morsels for myself? Pah! Pains me to think, to learn you think so little of good Templeton, my lady. A slice of fat carp on the plates of the right persons, and it won't be long before I'm transferred out of this frozen wasteland and somewhere to the sky is blue and a sea bluer. Very well then, feel free to use the facilities as you see fit. Just try not to damage anything. A lot of unnecessary paperwork that would be. And I suppose you should be wanting these materials returned as well. Did I inspect them thoroughly? I don't know, did I? Did it appear that I did? Good then. Wink, wink. Upon finishing the cockpit exterior component, it reads, a component to be used in the crafting of the Desil Quillan's cockpit exterior. Upon returning to Rosal with it, it says, "Scrap, scrap! Come here, come, have you, with components sought? Or failed, have you, like featherless nuker you are? Scrat! Your work, acceptable, it is. Perhaps more than, perhaps not. The engineers, pleased they will be. Perhaps. Scrat! Bah! Scrat! Merely one job amongst many this was. Scrat, scrat! Place trust in featherless nuker, I still do not. Yet understand why chieftain does, I may. Or may not. Scrat, scrat! I think this guy's just kind of scatting a little bit. An empty sack cannot hang downright. True. Rosal Catalan the Prudent requests the aid of a skilled disciple of the hand who is content with keeping her head down and most certainly not asking any questions. Scrat, scrat! The Desil Quillan, a cockpit she needs. A fine cockpit with a fine interior and a finer pilot seat. Scrat! Covered in fine leather it should be. Keep pilot's tail feathers properly cushioned it shall. Scrat, scrat! Materials for components I have not. Scrat! Materials for components flown to observatorium by a carrier of the 9 they were. Awaiting you at locks of Skyfire he is. Scrat!
But a featherless nuker he will not suffer. Whisper the 9 sacred words you must. Whispered once by the lady of the vortex they were. Now fall, now fall, now fall! Scrap! With materials in hand, components you must craft. Scrap! Require much care in crafting do such things. Proper equipment one must have, but proper equipment you do not have. Scrap! Upon favored 9, though, luck does smile. Such equipment close it does lie. Yada, yada, yada. Same line as before. Cold his blood is, like ice. Feed the fires of his greed you must. Scrap! Feed with pine lumber. Scrap! Scraps from lodge of timber lord. Scraps from Rotaloin. Feed the fires of his greed, and facilities yours they must be. Scrap, scrap! Remember, his game you must play. Materials he must inspect. Approval he must give. Upon speaking to the Ectoline carrier, he says, a featherless nuker, the not counter sent. Desperate times these are, even for mighty 9. Scrap! Squirk! Listen now, Squirk. Goods from homeland I carry. Over high mountains high and chasms deep. You have these items come. For you they have come. Use them well you will, or your throat I shall slit and your blood I shall sip. Squirk! And then upon speaking to Rotaloin, he says, might you have come for wood scraps? Master Tatarumu said someone would be along, but I never expected it would be so soon. The days have become a blur as of late. For the longer I tend to the growing of trees, the less significant mere days, weeks, even moons have become. Prithee, tell Master Tatarumu that I appreciate his generous donations to the replanting efforts, and that I anticipate his next visit, whenever that may be. Leaving so soon? Might you reconsider? I get so very few visitors here at the Timberlord Lodge. It's difficult to even remember the last time I spoke with someone other than my good friends, the Owls. The cockpit interior component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components for the interior of an airship's cockpit. And the pine lumber scraps read, pine lumber cuttings of various lengths left over from the other undertakings and often used as firewood. Upon speaking to Templeton, he says, so cold, so bloody goddamn cold! Oh, I apologize for that unsightly outburst. It's just so goddamn bloody cold! Oh, there I go again. Perhaps it is this nasty tempter that has condemned me to a life of frozen privies in a shriveled sack. What? Why, if it isn't a neatly tied bundle of lumber scraps, and just as I was beginning to feel the old sack tighten another notch. Skyways cannot expect a man to risk life and limb guarding priceless crafting materials with his stones drawn up all the way into his belly, now can they? Your selfless generosity has ensured the safety of the facilities for another turn of the sun, or at least until the lumber scraps are gone. And then his normal spew. Upon completing the cockpit interior components, they read a component to be used in creating the Deslo Kulan's cockpit interior. Upon returning to Rosal, he says, scrap, scrap! Come, have you, with cockpit components sought, or failed you have, as I suspected. Your work, amazingly acceptable it is. Yes, scrap, scrap. Pains me, it does, to reach for the hand of featherless ones. Scrap. But perhaps this pride, that which has held back my kin for so long it is, perhaps over it is, the time to dwell on past. A simple dilemma it is not. A simple answer I shall not find. And so place full trust in you I still cannot. Some trust in you, perhaps. Perhaps not. Scrap. Hot cross buns. Rosal Catalan the Prudent requests the aid of a skilled disciple of the hand in tackling a particularly sticky wicket. Scrap, scrap! The Deslo Quillan, ballast she needs. Fine ballast to see her back to land. Fine ballast to see her back to sea. Fine ballast held in bladder of cloth and leather. Scrap! Keep ballast from seeping through hull, they shall. Scrap! Materials for components I have not. Scrap! Materials for components purchased by tiny Tatarumu they were. From a featherless peddler at the observatorium they were. Awaiting your arrival, peddling nuker is. Scrap, scrap! Same line. To expose his wrongdoings are. To help his trickery you must. Help cover his featherless arse you must. Scrap! Cover with beard of croc. Scrap! Beard of skyfire croc. With shearing knife yours it shall be. Scrap! Cover his arse and the facilities yours they shall be. Fail and gone they shall be. Scrap! Scrap! Materials he must inspect. Approval he must give. Appearances he must keep. Scrap! The shearing knife you use to carve a beard off of a croc reads, designed for shearing the wool from a sheep, it is not recommended that one use the blade to remove whiskers from a feral croc, as it will more than likely damage the knife permanently, and indeed it does shatter when you do it. Upon speaking with Duvi Caro, he says, oh, here to tow snow with a winter-drunk sutler. Sorry, lass, but I haven't the time for fun today. I'm waiting on a swiving little rotter who was supposed to be here hell's bells ago to take on a package of questionables. Oh, you're the swiving little rotter. Well then. Pardon the lack of a proper greeting, but I'm not holding on to this pile of bird shite any longer. Take it away quick as afore I call the knights over and have you arrested for possession of unholy idols. And tell that Tatarumu he can shove any future delivery straight up his windward passage.
I don't know where that accent went, but it certainly wasn't French. I can't do a French accent. I need to work on that, or otherwise I'm going to have a really hard time at Heaven's Ward. Anyway, the ballast component materials you get read, materials required to craft components for an airship's ballast, and the feral crockbeard reads, it is not commonly known outside of the boreal climes of Corthus that when woven into a mesh, the whiskers of a feral croc are excellent at preventing the escape of heat. Upon speaking to Templeton, he says, you ever wonder why I'm always standing? Because everything in this frozen hell is colder than a heretic's heart, that's why. Anywhere I sit, I'm like to freeze my royal arse off, and I've grown quite attached to her rosy highness of late. Why, how convenient, a feral crockbeard. Did you know that these whiskers can be woven into a cloth that will protect the buttocks from cold? I suppose it could protect other parts of one person's from cold, but an arse can be especially susceptible to winter climes. And then the usual shit. One additional thing, I forgot to mention that if you speak to him again before, or once you speak to him after completing the thing, he says, it appears you've completed that contraption of yours. I shall not ask what it is for if you promise to remove it from here at once. It would be simply tragic if one of my supervisors to walk in here and I had to tell them of how you threatened to smother me with a musky crockbeard if I didn't allow you to access our equipment. Wink, wink. The ballast component you receive reads, a component to be used in creating the Deslquilon's ballast. Upon returning it to Rosal, he says, scrap, scrap! Waited over long I have. Ballast component or disappointment did you bring? Scrap! The component, scrap! And of a quality it is. Cease to amaze, you do not, featherless one. Therefore, cease to request aid, we shall not. Scrap, 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 scrap! An Ixal joke that was. Feel free to laugh you are. Go on, scrap! Simply the biased. Rosal Catalan the Prudent requests the aid of a disciple of the hand, and according to the faction Not Counter, you are the only featherless one he trusts with the task. Scrap, scrap! Featherless one, your hands, they are soft. Why must you rely on clumsy weapons? Herein lies reason. Ixali claws, superior in battle do they make us, yet same claws in crafting, inferior do they render us. Scrap, scrap! The Deslquilon, an instrument panel she needs, a fine panel with fine levers and knobs. Scrap! Keep pilot and control they shall. Scrap! Require much care and crafting do such things. Proper equipment one must have. Yada yada. Same thing, except a man most malfeasant. My second favorite feasance. Lusty for coin he is, lusty like Uldan, lusty like beggar. Scratch his lusty itch you must, suck his dick you must. Just kidding. Scratch with biased claw for monsters in West. Scratch his lusty itch, your facilities yours they shall be. But remember, first his game you must play, materials he must inspect, approval he must give, now go suck his dick. The biased claw you get reads, the frighteningly long and sharp claw of a biased. And the instrument panel component materials read, materials required to craft components for an airship's main instrument panel. So many of these items are exactly the same thing, and yet I'm reading them anyway. I spoil you, viewers. Upon speaking to Templeton, he says, oh, whatever will I do? Without that biased claw, whatever will I do? Why, if it isn't a biased claw, how apropos! Me minus that appendage would have left me stuck in a pickle without a paddle, or something like that. You see, I promised a certain sutler I'd sell him one, before recalling I had little talent at, well, playing things and such, and hence my dilemma. Without that claw, not only would I appear the fool in the eyes of that swiving sutler, but I'd also be forced to use my own coin to purchase that cask of red I'm having delivered later this evening. But lo, my dilemma is solved! And then the usual thing. But, upon speaking with him afterwards, he says, it appears you've completed that contraption of yours. I shall not ask what it is, for if you promise to remove it from here at once, it would be simply tragic if one of my supervisors were to walk in and I had to tell them of how you threatened to pierce mine optics with this deadly claw if I didn't allow you to access our equipment. Wink, wink. The instrument panel components you complete read, a component to be used in creating the Deslquilon's main instrument panel. Upon returning to Rosal, he says, scratch, scratch! For components I wait, for excuses I do not. Money time is. Yet another sound piece you did bring. Yet confounded I remain, mistrust the featherless ones we did. For so long we did. In our hearts much hate do we still harbor. Despite recent relations we still harbor. Yet still your hand you lend, your judgment you refuse. To recognize this quality within you, wise was chieftain. Why, it is that chieftain he is, but counter of knots I remain. A long way to the top. Rosal Catalan the Prudent requests the aid of a disciple of the hand with sufficient elbow grease to see her smoothly through a difficult task. Scratch, scratch! Doozle Mayon the Steady. Doozle Mayon the Steady. Comes he does, soon he does. Looking for imperfections he is, looking for blood he is, my blood he is. If my blood he has, your blood I claim. Now, the Deslquilon, an aerodynamo she needs, a fine dynamo with fine dampeners. Keep the internal gyroscope from vibrating they shall, keep flyers from failing they shall. Require extreme care and crafting do such things. The steady is watching he is, proper equipment, same thing. A man most indolent,
idle he lies, like a swine in the sty he lies, like a corpse in the crypt he lies. Tempt this shiftless sluggard you must. Tempt him with the promise of eternal indolence. Tempt him with your willingness to work, and the facilities yours they shall be. But remember, same line. Another shifty-eyed adventurer to take about poor Templeton, are we? Well, I'll have you know I am a veritable rock, unmoved by the ungentlemanly jostlings of the world's ne'er-do-wells, unbroken by the pounding pleas of hollow-hearted heels. Unless, of course, there's something in it for me, of course. A rolling stone gathers no moss, but why would I want moss when I could have things? And one thing I could use right now is a pair of healthy adventurer legs to carry this important timetable up an ungodly amount of stairs. Though I suppose a pair would be two things. Pah! Semantics. Present this document to Josiah at the apex of the Astroscope Tower and return with her signature so that I may know that you did not simply run over to the pub and kill a bell or three. What? Where's the trust? I did not get to where I am today, placing my faith in every vagrant and vagabond that came tapping on my door. I would take the timetable to Josiah myself, but those stairs, there's just too many of them. Now, if she worked in the cellar, the Highwind Skyway's timetable you take reads, despite the efforts to put into meticulously scheduling scores of flights throughout the realm, the sad truth is that each and every airship will more than likely both arrive and depart late. Upon flying to the top of the tower, because I beat a Realm Reborn and I'm not a crazy person who likes to walk up steps, and speaking to Josiah, she says, An unknown face, or perhaps simply a face forgotten. Far too many people pass through the tower to remember all of them. Have you business with me? Ah, the timetable I requested. I was beginning to wonder when that do-nothing dullard from the Skyways would bring it to me. And why does it not surprise me that he has found someone to see the task for him? You say he wants a signature as proof of your delivery? Absolutely not. Who knows what he shall use it for? Not leaving, are you? Very well, I shall sign, but with my offhand, and only my initials. Now, off with you. The signature you get reads, a signature denoting the fact that Josiah has received a copy of the current Highwind Skyway's timetable. And the aerodynamo component materials read, materials required to craft components for an airship's aerodynamo. Templeton says, when you return, you didn't actually walk up all those stairs, did you? No, I just told you I flew, because I beat a Realm Reborn. Nut job. You did, didn't you? No. And here I was just about ready to let you use the facilities anyway. Oh, and then get at it. Just try not to damage anything. A lot of unnecessary paperwork that will be. And on the same line. Then it says, the aerodynamo component reads, a component to be used in creating the Desel Kulan's aerodynamo. Passable, your work is. Pleased, dues all will be. Saved, our necks are. Headed, you remain. For now, scrap! Reach for the starboard. Tazzle Mayon the Lettered has need of a capable craftsman to lend form to his genius. Featherless One wishes to help lend shape to my genius, yes, as said in the quest. Starboard wing I make. Make components for this you will. What components, you ask? Etheric sailcloth for wing, ideal for trapping wind energy. 4 sets of highest quality I need. For crafting special materials you need. To obtain them, trade with Black Rabbit Trader at Fallgord Float you must. To him, 15 pristine oak branches and 5 pristine oak logs you give. Find these near Proud Creek you can. When materials you have, use crafting facility at Fallgord to make components you can. The pristine oak branches that you gather read, a thick, straight limb of an oak, and the pristine oak logs read, a rough-cut log of oak timber. In addition to being perfectly cylindrical, not a single branch protrudes from the length. Upon giving these items to the Black Rabbit Trader, they say, here to collect the materials on Tazzle's behalf, and I trust you have the wares for the exchange. The flowing grain, the delicate fragrance. These are some of the finest specimens of oak I've ever seen. As agreed upon, here are the materials that were requested. A pleasure doing business. The starboard wing component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components for the wings positioned on the right side of an airship. Additionally, you speak to Hildegard for these quests, which means that the dialogue repeats from the first time we met her. Starboard wing component, which is what you get upon finishing the craft, reads, a component to be used in creating the Desel Kulan's starboard wings. And upon returning it to Tazzle, they say, Featherless One returns. Starboard wing components of the highest quality, I trust you have? Scraw! Precisely to specifications they are. Most impressed I am. With my genius and your deft hands, to infinity and beyond we shall go. Larboard and lodging.
Tazelmayon the Lettered has precision components that want for crafting.
Scraw! Make 4 components for larboard wing, you must. Bolts of etheric sailcloth for wing, crafted to finest finish. Vital to vessel performance they are. Perfection exists not, only striving for it there is. Keep experimenting and improving designs, I shall. For this, many components are needed. By connection of Tatarumu, secured materials I have. From independent merchant at Falgord Float, collect them you must. To merchant, 15 small granite rocks and 5 large granite rocks you give. Find them west of Peace Garden you can. When materials you have, use crafting facility at Falgord to make components you can.
The small granite rock you collect reads, a chunk of gray igneous rock the size of an adult Rogadin's fist, and the large ones read, a large, heavy chunk of gray igneous rock. Upon giving these items to the independent merchant, they say, you must be the adventurer that Master Tatarumu mentioned. You've brought the wares for the exchange, I trust? Ah, yes, quality chunks of granite as promised. My thanks, friend. I hope the materials serve you well. Doubtless you already know this, but you can make use of the crafting facility at Bobbing Cork. Speak with Hildier, the woman in charge, and she'll take care of you. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have other business to attend to. The larboard component wing materials you get read, materials required to craft components for the wings positioned on the left side of the airship. Once again, normal spiel from Hildiard. The completed larboard wing components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezel-Qulan's larboard wings. Upon returning to Tazel with the larboard wing component materials, he says,
crafted larboard wing components of finest finish Featherless One has. Then show them to Tazel you must. Scraw! Precisely produced they are. Featherless One after Tazel's own heart adventurer is. For perfection, together we strive.
Guilty Gear strive. Right wing aeronautics. Tazelmayon the Lettered has a mind to test his latest brainchild.
Scraw! Conceived new control mechanism for starboard wing I have. Test my design I would. To proceed, components of highest quality I need. Set of heavy-duty joint parts it is. Prepare it for me you must. Materials for crafting. Hoarded by Ixal of logging grounds. Inside treasure pots they are kept. Take from no less than 3 you must. Attempt to stop you screechy ones will. Knock them around you can, but if you die, come for your bones I won't. What materials you have, use crafting facility at Falgord to make components you can.
The starboard wing control components you receive read, materials required to craft components for the gears which allow the controls of wings positioned on the right side of an airship. Regular spew from Hildiard. After completing the starboard wing control components, they read, a component to be used in creating the Dezel-Qulan's starboard wing control unit. And upon returning to Tazel with them, he says,
alive and well, Featherless One returns. Crafted components of my desire you have, yes? Quickly show Tazel you must. Precisely to specification it is. Test my design now I can. My thanks you have.
Left wing aeronautics. Tazelmayon the Lettered has a request of the crafting persuasion to make.
Scraw! Unbelievable it is. Control components for larboard wing I made, but function as intended they did not. Heavy-duty joint parts used to make wing move they are. Highest quality replacements I need. Alas, easy to obtain materials are not. Take them from Ixal logging grounds we must. Deep inside, near balloon landing, Ectel brother hides. Password wings unbending to him, you say. Help you obtain materials he will. When materials you have, use crafting facility at Falgord to make components you must.
Upon speaking to the Ectel 9 silencer, he says,
business here you have not. If you value your featherless hide, turn around and walk away you will.
But using the password, he says,
Scraw! Password of Ectel 9, you know? Then as sister to me you are. Ah, for component materials you have come. Good fortune you possess. Already taken many, you see. Entrust them to you. Use them well, you must. Done your business here is. Strangers once more we must be. Take materials to Falgord, you will.
The larboard wing control component materials read, materials required to craft components for the gears, which allow control of the wings positioned on the left side of an airship. You get the usual spiel from Hildiard, and after finishing crafting the larboard wing control components, they read, a component to be used in creating the Dezel-Qulan's larboard wing control unit. Upon returning to Tazelmayon the Lettered, he says,
ah, safely returned, Featherless One is. Tell me, materials we need, you have found? Components I asked for, you have made? Scraw! Perfect to last detail they are. Function as intended they should. My thanks you have.
Getting into gear. Tazelmayon the Lettered has need of a versatile adventurer to reclaim stolen materials and craft them into balloon components.
Scraw! Dreadful it is. Materials stolen by thieves. To be used in transmission unit they were. Joints for drive shaft. Without them, be mounted onto vessel drive shafts cannot. Remain grounded, dreams of XIV will. Being born by caravan materials were. Ransacked by Keekern rats caravan was. Information on vile vermin Mia Molcott will have. Find her at Eugenia's spire you will. Alas, scourge of Ixal, that feral feline is. Go within 100 paces of her, we dare not. Track down and reclaim materials in our stead you must. When materials you have, you've crafting facility at Falgord to make transmission components you can.
Upon speaking to Mia Molcott, she says, "You seek Mia Molcott, great bane of the birdmen? I am she. How might I serve you, adventurer? Caught sight of little birdies that want for feathering, mayhap? The Keekern rats that ransacked an Ixali caravan. Reports say they fled north of here after the deed was done. Why do you ask? You don't mean to reclaim the stolen wares for the Ixal, do you? But of course not. You asked about the Keekern out of curiosity, right? Right. After ransacking the Ixali caravan, the Keekern rats fled north of here. I will assume you asked about them out of curiosity, not because you mean to help the sworn enemy of Gridania. Carry on, then. Upon confronting the Keekern rats, they say such things as, "Loot become sparklies, sparklies become tasty chicken egg. Squeak! Friend of bird, kill ambusher, make ambusher dead. So little loots, me want more loots. Squeak! You come to loot my loots, me loot your loots." Upon retrieving the transmission component materials, they read, "Materials required to craft components for an airship's transmission." You get the usual spiel from Hildyard, and after finishing crafting the transmission components, they read, "A component to be used in creating the Dezel Colon's transmission systems." Upon returning the items to Tazzle, he says, "Featherless one, I hail. Materials taken by Keekern you have recovered. With them, transmission components of finest finish you have made. Scraw! Sublime components missing materials have become. To take to high heaven streams of Ectoline will. Good and noble heart Featherless one has. Unique among your kind you are. Much and more to life than bloodletting there is." Hell's vent on the heavens. Tazzle Mayon the Lettered would turn to you for your crafting expertise. "Scraw! Almost complete my revolutionary heat vent unit is. 4 components of the highest quality I need. Composite material for casing it is. Strong and resistant to heat. Craft components at Hurst Mill you must. Featherless one Tatarumu says, at Hamlet his weaponsmith of great skill. Suitable crafting facility and abundant materials he has. With his fledgling, name of Drake you must speak. Get permission to use facility and materials. As payment, bring him Doulahan plate. Maybe 3 pieces. Can get them from fiends around Proud Creek you can." After retrieving the Doulahan plate, it reads, "Fortunately, this particular piece of ancient armor is no longer possessed by a former inhabitant of the Void." Upon speaking to Drake and delivering the Doulahan plates, he says, "Greetings, good madam. Are you here to collect your kettle?" "Begging your pardon, you wish to use our facility? I'm afraid I must consult my master. You would give us these pieces of plate as payment? Gods no, we can't have too much good steel for our kettles. Master Geralt should have no cause to complain, I should think. Our humble facility is at your disposal, and likewise the supplies you say you need. The steel you have brought more than covers the costs. If you have need of additional materials, do not hesitate to ask me. The steel you brought is of excellent quality and more than covers the costs." The completed heat vent components read, "A component to be used in creating the Dezel Quillan's heat vents." Upon returning to Tazel with them, he says, "Welcome here, Featherless one is. 4 high-quality components for heat vent unit you have made. Then quickly show Tazel you must. Scraw! Nothing to be desired, workmanship leaves. Most impressed I am. Fly free like wind soon, Ectel9 will." Crazy like the pox. Duzul Mayan the Steady seeks a skilled disciple of the hand to assist his team of crafts birds in the creation of intricate components.
Caw! Skilled hands I seek, feathered and featherless I care not. My brethren I love, but all talons they are. Grace they have not, perfection they cannot achieve. Tasked with creating of Dezel Quillan's speaking tubes we are. If tubes not padded, cluttered voices will become. Unheard orders will be, lost lives will be. Caw! Featherless you may be, but privileged you are. Where shunned an Ixal is, welcome are the daughters of man. Welcome to the gifts of art and knowledge. To the diamond forge you must go. To Fear Breda you must speak. The gifts of art she tends, guide you to perfection she shall. Caw, caw! Upon speaking with Fear Breda, she says, "You have the look of business about you, so I won't waste your time mincing words. My rules here are simple. Follow them and you are free to use the facilities for as long as you need. Rule 1. All that passes through these doors must be inspected. I will have no contraband within my walls.
Period. Rule 2. You make a contribution of my choice to the Revenant's Toll chapter of the Adventurers Guild. No questions asked, no exceptions. That suits you. Journey to the Tangle and use the moth pupae to catch 2 tangle skippers. The gall from their bellies is known to stave off the pox, and a recent outbreak has tapped the hamlet's supply. If it doesn't, you can leave and let the screams of suffering children haunt your nightmares for eternity. A little bit fucked up, lady, but whatever. The tangle skipper you return with reads, a rare variety of sludge skipper only found in the shallow waters of the Tangle. And the speaking tube component materials you give over for inspection read, materials required to craft components for an airship's speaking tubes. Upon returning with these to Fierbrita, she says, quick with you now before the pox claims another innocent child's life. Not as large as I had hoped, but these skippers will have to suffice. As for your materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found not the guild is deemed forbidden. Proceed then. Upon speaking with her after completing the craft, she says, I suppose this is farewell. If aught should happen to your work while on the road, do not hesitate to return here for additional materials. For this day I am in your debt. You see, I have just received word that the skipper gall you acquired. It has helped see my niece back from the brink of death. The completed speaking tube component reads, a component to be used in creating the Desolqualan's speaking tubes.
Caw! Think me fool, do my brethren. Expect perfection from featherless one you cannot, they say. Make me look the fool you must not. Or make you look the corpse I shall. Caw! Ha! Clumsy buzzard brethren. Quick to look down upon featherless one you are. Yet behold, perfect her work is, if into passing my inspection more care was placed than into passing a wind. Hands of featherless one we would not have had to borrow. Caw! Friend, make me look the fool you did not. Yet a fool would I be, should I not again seek your aid. Hear from me soon you shall. Until that time, caw!
It's a hard knock life. Duzel Mayon the Steady seeks a similarly steady-handed disciple of the hand to assist his team of craftsbirds in the creation of frangible components. The fuck is a frangible? What?
Caw! Delicate hands I seek, feathered, featherless I care not. My brethren I trust, but all talons they are, grace they have not, perfection they cannot achieve. Tasked with the crafting of Desolqualan's lamps we are. If lamp wicks are not perfect, dark lamps shall become, blind we shall become, disaster there will be. Caw! Feathers you have not, but privilege you have. Where spurned in Ixal is, welcome are the daughters of man, welcome to use gifts of art and knowledge.
And then the same line about Fierbrita. Upon speaking with Fierbrita, she says, times are dire, so I won't waste your time mincing words. My rules here are simple. Follow them, and you are free to use the facilities so long as you need. You get the same spiel from Fierbrita at the beginning, but she says, if that suits you, journey to the southeastern edge of the Tangle and gather 5 mangrove logs and 15 tangle mangrove branches. The wood is to be used to rebuild the hamlet orphanage, which we lost in a fire but half a moon past. If it doesn't, you can leave and have the suffering of countless children on your conscience. Journey to the southeastern edge of the Tangle and gather 5 tangle mangrove logs and 15 tangle mangrove branches. Do this and the facilities are yours to use. You gotta stop hanging the children over us, lady. It's not helping. The tangle mangrove branch reads, a twisted limb of a variety of mangrove only found growing in the Tangle. And the logs read, a rough-cut log of timber taken from a variety of mangrove only found growing in the Tangle. The lamp component materials you give over to be inspected read, materials required to craft components for an airship's lighting system. Returning these to Fierbrita, she says, quick with you now before the cold claims another innocent child's life. Well, a tad worm-eaten and not as straight as I hoped. A lot of people... Well, actually, no. A lot of people say that. No. Nobody really says that about me. Never mind. Damn it. If only I was gay, that would have been a really funny joke. Oh well. Anyway. But this wood will have to suffice. As to your materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found not the guild is deemed forbidden. Proceed then. If you require more time or materials, do not hesitate to ask, for today I am in your debt. The wood you brought earlier will put a roof over the heads of many. I did not mention it before, but I too was an orphan, and I know what it is like to spend a night alone and hungry in the cold. I suppose this is farewell. If aught should happen to your work while on the road, do not hesitate to return here for additional materials. For this day I am in your debt. You see, I have just received word that the wood you acquired for the guild it has helped complete another room in the orphanage. Tonight, a child will sleep without fear, thanks to you. The completed lamp components read, a component to be used in creating the Desolqualan's lighting system. Upon returning to Duzel, he says, caw! Only perfection there is, perfection or failure. Which have you claimed today, I wonder? Caw, caw! Perfection! Guide us, this light will. To sacred Atalian it will.
Featherless friend you are. Hear from me again you shall. Caw!
Manual labor. Duzal Mayon the Steady seeks a dedicated disciple of the hand to assist his team of crafts birds in the creation of durable components.
Caw! Deft hands I seek, featherless I care not. My brethren I trained myself, but all talons they are. Finesse they lack, perfection out of their grasp it lies. Tasked with crafting of Dezel Quillan's exhaust outlet we are. If filter's not perfect, black our smoke shall turn. A trail in the sky we shall leave. Visible to our enemies we shall become. Caw! Your face, smooth and ugly it is. Man, fuck you. But with ugliness comes privilege. Where refused an Ixal is, welcome are the daughters of man. And then the normal spiel. Upon speaking with Fierbrita, she gives you her initial guidelines, and then says, if that suits you, journey to the southeastern edge of the tangle and gather 15 clear water shards and 5 clear water clusters. What the crystals are for, I am not at liberty to say. Remember, no questions asked. The clear water shards read, the ethereal balance of this crystal shard is tipped completely to the element of water. Not a single trace of any of the other 5 elements can be detected. Same deal for the clear water cluster, except instead of shard, it says cluster. And the exhaust outlet component materials you hand over to be inspected read, materials required to craft components for an airship's ceruleum exhaust outlet. Upon returning to Fierbrita, she says, quick now, there isn't much time. Yes, flawless and void of all impurities, these will suffice. As for the materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found naught but the guild is deemed forbidden. Proceed then. I suppose this is farewell. If aught should happen to your work while on the road, do not hesitate to return here for additional materials. For this day, I am in your debt. You see, I have just received word that my sister has given birth to a healthy baby girl. Yes, I am a new aunt, in part. Thanks to your help. The completed exhaust outlet component reads, a component to be used in creating the Dezel Quillan's exhaust outlet. And upon returning to Duzal Mayon the Steady, he says, Caw! Hurry not, featherless one. For perfection, time it does take. Caw! Without flaw these are, more than suffice they shall. Yes, much alike we are, for satisfied with imperfection we are not. Learn much from you my crafters could, if not buzzard-brained they were. Caw!
Leave nothing to waste. Duzal Mayon the Steady seeks an exceptional disciple of the hand to assist his team of crafts birds in the creation of delicate components.
Caw! Quick hands I seek, featherless I care not. My brethren I love, but all talons they are. Grace they have not, perfection they cannot achieve. Tasked with crafting of Dezel Quillan's disposal unit we are. If connectors not perfect, leak pipes will. Damage other components our waste will. Disaster there will be. Caw! Materials I will provide, but to craft the components, proper facilities you will need. Seek Fierbrita and Revenant's toll you must. Though spurned and Ixal is, welcome to use the gifts of art and knowledge featherless ones are. To the Diamond Forge you must go, to Fierbrita you must speak. The gifts of arts she tends, guide you to perfection she shall. Caw, caw!
We're busy here at the Diamond Forge, so I won't waste time mincing words, Fierbrita says when you speak with her first. My rules here are simple. Follow them and you are free to use the facilities for as long as you need. And then the normal spiel. If that suits you, journey to the tangle and collect a thick vine from a morble. It will be used to make sturdy rope, that miners can more safely scale the rugged crags of Mordona. If it doesn't, you can leave and let the broken backs of countless miners weigh on your conscience. The thick morble vine you get reads, an exceptionally thick morble appendage. It continues to thrash about despite being long severed. And the disposal unit component materials you hand over for inspection read, materials required to craft components for an airship emergency disposal unit. Upon returning to Fierbrita with the items, she says, quick now before another miner meets an abrupt end. Excellent. So make for a fine rope. As for your materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found not that the guild is deemed forbidden. Proceed then. If you require more time and materials, do not hesitate to ask, for today I am in your debt. I did not mention this before, but my dearest childhood friend will soon take up mining, and the rope we shall make shall serve him well. For the peace of mind you have given me, it is the least I can do. After finishing the craft, she says, I suppose this is farewell. If aught should happen to your work while on the road, do not hesitate to return here for additional materials. For this day I am in your debt. You see, I have just received word that my dear friend was in an accident, and were it not for his morble vine rope, he would have fallen to his death like the others. Though he is injured, he will live to mine another day. It's pretty incredible that managed to happen in the 20-second span it took me to craft all these items, but sure. The completed disposal unit components read, a component used in creating the Dezel Quillan's disposal unit. Upon returning to Duzal Mayon, he says, wrought perfection you have? Give to Duzal you must. Caw!
Perfection, Featherless One has brought. Free of odors our ship will be. My deepest thanks, Featherless One has. Honor us you would, to work on Dezel Qualan in the future.
Tanks for nothing. Duzal Mayon the Steady seeks a reliable disciple of the hand to assist his team of craftsbirds in the creation of a prototype components.
Caw! Capable hands I seek, feathered, featherless I care not. My brother and I love, but all talons they are, grace they have not. Perfection they cannot achieve. Tasked with crafting of Dezel Qualan's ceruleum tank we are. Prototype we have made, but shape is warped like hippogriff. Improve Duzal would, with aid of Featherless One. Materials we have, but proper facilities we have not. To the Diamond Forge you must go. Seek Fear Breda, and Revenant's Toll you must. Though spurned and Ixal is, welcome to use the gifts of art and knowledge Featherless Ones are. Upon speaking with Fear Breda, she gives you the usual spiel, then says, if that suits you, journey to Castrum Sentry and steal Garlean fiber from their reserves. Rowena requires materials for new armor, that fledgling adventurers may be better prepared to face the dangers lurking beyond our walls. If it doesn't, you can leave, and know that countless greenhorns will perish for want of better equipment. The Garlean fiber, number 43, that you collect, reads, a lightweight fiber far more durable than any woven in Eorzea, used to create lightweight yet durable armor for Imperial soldiers. And some additional lore here. As you might remember, Garlean items are numbered in the year of the Emperor's reign that they were created. So in this case, this is a fiber that was created in the 43rd year of Solus Zos Galvus's reign. The ceruleum tank component materials that you give to be inspected read, materials required to craft components for an airship's main ceruleum fuel tank. Upon returning to Fear Breda, she says, quick now, Rowena is eager to begin her work. Not quite the quantity I was expecting, but I suppose this will have to do. As for your materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found not the guild is deemed forbidden. Proceed, then. Afterwards, you can speak to her, and she says, I suppose this is farewell. If aught should happen to your work while on the road, do not hesitate to return here for additional materials. For this day, I am in your debt. You see, my son's unit was attacked while escorting researchers to St. Koenigsfind. He said he owes his life to his new armor. The completed ceruleum tank components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezel Qualan's main ceruleum fuel tank. And upon returning it to Duzal, he says, caw! Growing anxious Duzal is for perfectly crafted components of Featherless One. Disappoint me you will not, yes? Many similarities with my own work there are, and within the differences, great possibilities Duzal sees. A path to perfection your work will pave. Through the combination of the Ixals and Featherless One's techniques, many new innovations we will discover. Surpass even Dezel Qualan we may yet. Gah! And of course he's talking about the historical figure Dezel Qualan, not the ship, who doesn't do anything except get flown. Never steer you wrong. Duzal Mayon the Steady seeks a discerning disciple of the hand to assist his team of craftsbirds in fixing the flaws of vital components. Caw! Reliable hands I seek, feathered, featherless I care not. My brother and I love, but all talons they are. Yada yada, you've seen that before. Tasked with crafting of Dezel Qualan's steering mechanism we were, but perfect mechanism is not. Stuck the control levers become, like bones in craw after hearty feasting. And then the same line about Fear Breda and the Diamond Forge. Upon speaking with Fear Breda at the Diamond Forge, she gives you the usual spiel, then says, if that suits you, journey to Camp Revenant Toll, or what's left of it, and force the group of Corthans who have pitched camp in the ruins to leave. Normally we wouldn't mind, but they're said to be belligerent, threatening anyone passing through the area. If it doesn't, you can leave, and allow countless innocent men and women to suffer at their hands. The various Frenchmen you speak to say things like, peace off, adventurer, we're not leaving until we have what we came for. Another damned adventurer, I've had enough of your meddling. And leave? Ha! I'm not leaving, and neither are you. And then you kill them. The steering mechanism component materials you give over to be inspected after completing the task read, materials required to craft components for an airship's internal steering mechanism. And Fear Breda says, I have no doubt your powers of persuasion were enough to resolve the situation. Now then, show me your materials. As for your materials, though obviously of questionable origin, I have found naught the guild has deemed forbidden. Proceed then. A little bit of an awkward transition there. If you require more time or materials, do not hesitate to ask, for today I am in your debt.
I did not mention it before, but my nephew was one of many assaulted by the Corthans. You will rest easy now knowing those terrible men have been slain, as will I. Presumably the same nephew who also almost died falling off a cliff while he was mining. This kid, somebody should probably, supervise him for a little bit, maybe. The completed steering mechanism components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezul-Qulan's steering mechanism. And upon returning to Duzal with them, he says, "Show me the components you must. Perfection of Featherless One's crafting, I would see. Ka! Disappoint your work does not. Obvious now the problem is when looking at Featherless One's crafting. Overconfident I was. Overlooked flaws in design I did. But closer to the skies we are, thanks to your creation. Ka! Ka! West for fishing. A particular school of supply chain management operates exclusively on barters, blackmail, and word of mouth. And Jezul Ahautan II is an enthusiastic adherent of this philosophy. Sorry, I just wanted to pause and make sure that I was kind of pronouncing that name right, or reading it correctly, at least. I sincerely doubt that I'm pronouncing it right, but, just had to make sure.
Scraw! Feathered gratitude you dream of having. Quality silk the featherless weave, I know. Bring some tight woven you can. Bear this silk must the loft of air. If rip, rip, rip it does, then squawka waka. Rip, rip, rip a new cloaca for you we will.
What? Huh?
A sutler there is in Camp Dragonhead way. Materials she has. Told us of her, that runt he did. Know the one you do. Squawk! Stubborn the salter you will find. A trade she seeks. 3 snow smelt you will fish for her from the Dragonhead latrines. Moth pupae the smelt will like. Repulsive the waters are. Squawk-a-whack! Strange featherless ones. Why not eat the pupae instead, I wonder?
The snow smelt you fish up reads, an offshoot of the Abelathian smelt with firm flesh that enables it to dwell comfortably in frigid waters and poo water. What can I do for you? Oh, you're one of Tatarumu's friends, are you? The stubborn sutler says when you speak to him. Bless his tininess, he does get around. He told you I wanted fish to trade, I take it? Don't worry about the House for Tom engineer in this screenshot, by the way. It's not important. Very nice. Fat and sweet-fleshed indeed. Don't look so queasy. 'Twas some wily fishers that took to calling it our latrines, the best fishing hole in these parts now, thanks to most folk keeping away. Time for me to hold up my end of the bargain. Your materials. You can make free use of the crafting facility at Camp Dragonhead. Just have a word with Norbito. The escape flyer component materials you get read, materials required to craft components for escape flyers used in the event of airship emergency. Upon speaking with Norbito, he says, "Ah, the one that Master Tataruma vouched for. Welcome to our humble facility. I see that you are not without your aches and sorrows, but there is no ill that crafting cannot cure. I understand that it is no ordinary item you wish to craft. To tell the truth, I tire of crafters whose ambit of skill can be measured in the thumb and forefinger. You may count on my assistance. Put this away, and pull that forward. All is in readiness. Here are the materials you need. The excess I will retain for safekeeping. The facility is at your disposal, my good crafter." Upon completing the craft, he says, "I see you've done with the crafting. Ready for delivery, I presume. Not that such misfortune is common or likely, but if you should mislay the fruits of your labor, this crafting facility and your excess materials will always be available to you." The completed escape flyer components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezul-Qulan's escape flyers, and upon returning them to Jezul, he says,
Squawk! The components you have, escape we will, or squawk-a-whack all plunge to earth. Squawk! Best quality. A wise choice Chief Tortolock did make. If fail, an escape flyer does, then squee-squee, on your account it is not. Excellent craftsmanship you have.
Your gill's no good here. Jezul Ahautan II knows that where the monetary system holds no sway, barter must come into greater play.
Squaw! A helping claw you will extend. Short of sturdy barrels for ceruleum we are. Arrive they did from a cut-rate cooper, and squawk-a-whack! Get you do what you pay for. An understanding we have with a sutler at Camp Dragonhead. The materials provide them he can. Trade for them. Only trade he will. Like him, I do, for one so featherless. Somber as raven he is. Trust for Gil he has not. Hiss at me he did. Fierce as goose he was. Gil is not but a construct, said he. Full of quarrel you featherless ones are. 15 ruby spruce branches and 5 logs of the same this sutler wants. Gather them with ease you can up Camp Dragonhead way. Point the crafting facility, and no more he will. Squee-squee! Dance to tune played by the small and sly one the sullen sutler will not.
The ruby spruce branch that you collect reads, The limb of a ruby spruce, a variety of spruce whose wood is a deep red due to the large amount of sap stored within the tree. And the ruby spruce logs read, a rough-cut log of ruby spruce, a variety of spruce who is red because of the sap. It's the same thing, you get it. Upon speaking to the sullen sutler, they say, even the weather is conspiring to put me out of business. That's right, just freeze your arse off till you're nothing even to sit on. That's the way of it is with gods and heroes. Leave a working man without an arse to call his own. Oh, one of Tatarumo's pals. Here's your material. Over there where you'll find Norbito. The crafting facility's his business, so don't bother me about it. What's the matter? The cold take your wits? Off with you. The crafting facility's not my watch. Upon speaking with Norbito, he says, the one Master Tatarumo spoke of. Welcome to our humble facility. I see that you've spent some time in the woods today, but the real work begins now. Is this your material? Let me weigh out what you need. Ample. A dyspeptic he may be, but that sutler is scrupulous down to the last ons. Now then, the facility is at your disposal, my canny crafter. And then he gives you the usual spiel. The completed spare tank components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezul Quolan's spare fuel tanks. And upon returning them to Jezuel, he says,
Squawk! My components you have. Build the spare tanks this turn we can. Squee squee! Fast delivery this is, and great work it is. Praise you as claw that grips, Chief Totolock would. No harrying you need, no cheating you do. Squawk! Fortunate I am to have your service.
Mining for compliments. According to Jezuel Ahatan II, regard is to be treasured, praise is to be enjoyed, and flattery discarded for the dross it is.
No regard we Ixal give. Earn all respect you must. Squawk! Try to cheat this many featherless ones do. One some regard you have, but mistake it for more than it is you do. Squee squee! Iron, not steel it is. Fly easier an Ixal does when favorably known he is. Same with featherless one it is. Squawk! Reinforced plywood you will craft? Lightweight it must be, and of first-rate quality. Gain a few more malms of altitude we must, all of us. Quack-a-what? Word I have sent to a sprightly sutler up Camp Dragonhead way. Trade you all the material he will. Squeak, squeak! Trust his opinion of other featherless I do not. A serious bone in his body there is not. Lost his best prospector did this sutler. Happy to supply the materials he is in exchange for 15 regular and 5 high-quality chunks of fluorite. Keen eyes for materials this sutler has. Play not the charlatan with him, or squack-a-what! Find fluorite you will, around Camp Dragonhead. A friend of Ectil the sutler is. Present you must the fluorite and your respects. Find at Camp Dragonhead you will, the sutler and facilities for crafting both.
The fluorite you mine reads, one of the varieties of ore necessary in forging Ishgardian steel. It's worth noting that I don't believe fluorite is actually an item used in crafting any of the items in Heavensward, so, wrong, I guess? Is that snow? How lucky I am just to have fur-lined boots and a kettle of soup on the hob, and even a bit of ham. Just call me the King of Winter. Good day to you, madam, here for those crafting materials. Here we go. Look at that, had me some barley under there. That's going in the soup. I do love barley in my soup. Hey, you're welcome to a bowl, should you grow weary. Tell Norbito that goes for him, too. Just half a handful of barley, it thickens up so, and a chunk of ham to have to live a little. The refabrication component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components for lighter weight renditions of previously synthesized airship parts. Upon speaking with Norbito, he says, yes, Master Tataruma's referral. Welcome to our humble crafting facility. I assure you the fires of crafting burn hotter than any snowstorm can counter. Sprightly as ever our friend is, his soup is legendary, and his blueberry slumps almost infamous. Let me tidy up the facilities. There now, everything is ready for your use. Here are the materials, I'll hold the excess for safekeeping, and there's that. If you run out of materials, simply come and fetch me. I shall be about. When the crafting's done, delivery must follow. Should anything go missing in the blizzard, take heart. Simply return to this crafting facility and start again. Any friend of Master Tataruma is a friend of mine. The completed refabrication components read, a component to be used in refabricating parts deemed too heavy for the Dezul Quolan. And upon returning them to Jezuel, he says, Squee, squee! Not long did that take. Refabrication components I spy, if mistaken I am not. Squaw! No argument from me you will have. Components good. But what I said, forget it not. Win the regard, wait for the respect. Forged over many turns it must be. Else false it is. Squawk! A high wind in Ishgard. The newest request from Jezuel Ahotan II reminds you that transaction is a web, not a chain. and every web has its spider.
One thing after another always it is. So hard to find good products, why must it be? An urgent need of 3 replacement isolator components I have. Squack-a-whack! Trust that favor-monger I do not, but owe him this time I must. 3 more chits of mine he will have. Squawk! Once, a ceruleum engine off its mount I saw. Terrible sight it was. Rip, rip, rip through everything it went. Held in place the engine must be. The most important component the mount is. Squawk! Most important. No material there is. Material scarcity, the Federalists claim. Squawk! Nothing by any other name. Nothing it is. Of quality material these isolator components must be made. Or squawk-a-what the result is. And much crumpling there will be. No choice I had. A humble request of Tatarumu I made. The materials for 3 components he has found, in spite of the great scarcity. With you he will speak.
Upon speaking with Tatarumu, he says, I'm sure Jezel has filled you in on my special access. It took some doing, but I've located the materials for your isolator components. That is, of course, the good news. The bad news is that the location in question is Corthus. I do hope you enjoy traveling. The mountains are quite beautiful this time of year. You have an appointment with a traitor at the Gates of Judgment. No names, as he abhors the unnecessary exchange of information. Here is a sack of gil to pay him. Very exacting people-ish guardians. Did you know they will drag a man to jail over a single missing gil? But your sole concern is to secure the materials and craft those isolator components, I am sure. The crafting facility at Camp Dragonhead, do say hello to Norbito from me, is a much more pleasant destination than an Ishgardian scaffold, you'd agree. Your material awaits in Corthus at the Gates of Judgment. What is it the poets say? The holdfast in the highlands, the corridor of Corthus. Have you felt the silence where all joy has fled, yet something rills and laughs at dusk? I don't know, do people say that? I don't fucking know. Anyway, the gil sack he gives you reads, a leather sack filled to bursting with gil to be used as payment for materials. Upon speaking to the Ishgardian trader, he says, Datarumu's woman, you made me wait longer than I'd like. The gil first, or I'll name our little friend a liar, and you a dead woman. This is good. Take your materials and have the joy of it. And should there be questions later, it comes not to me, understand. Ishgard has no liking for trade with Outlanders. Even a trade with the great and wealthy Highwind Skyways, not officially, but in the shadow of the Gates of Judgment. No man may judge another, for here a man judges himself. How do you judge yourself, Highwind's woman? For now I will take my gil, and you will take your materials, and back we shall go where our betters want us. But I think you are the one I would consent to meet again. Take your materials and go. We may meet again one day, but today there are other duties each of us must attend to. Apologies to French people for that one. The isolator component materials you receive read, materials required to craft components for a airship's vibration isolator. Upon speaking to Norbito, he says, I've had a word of your coming from Master Tatarumu. Welcome to our humble crafting facility. Had a long journey? No rest for the crafting, I take it. Remarkable you were able to secure materials in the midst of this shortage, but I wouldn't dream of prying into your affairs. I am only too happy that I can be of assistance. The facility is fit for use. It does take a while to warm up. Here are your materials. Not a single defect, of course. I'll hold the excess for safekeeping. Do let me know if you need anything else. We are as friends, you and I. And once completing the request, he also says, all done with the crafting? Oh, that looks marvelous. And I'm sure your client, whoever he or she is, you can just say they, buddy, will be delighted. And of course, this crafting facility is ever ready to assist again should there be any problems with the components. The completed isolator components read, a component to be used in creating the Dezel Quolan's vibration isolators. And upon returning to Jezuel with it, he says, a welcome sight you are, squawk! Survive you did, your brush with the Ishgardians. Brought me the components you have. Squee, squee! Well sourced, well made. Footprints in blood I shall not see. Not on ceilings and not on floors. Trust the imp wholly I do not. But when say that I do, trust me well. Trust you though, I do. Good crafter you are. Promises you keep. Squawk-a-whack! Bring your own ectoplasm. A crafter makes and a warrior unmakes. What then is an adventurer who does both and more? Good your crafting hands are. Squee squee. Sluggish are our ships, more than I like. And more than is liked by Chief Totolock. Need top hyperconductor components we do. Tricky matter it is. Squee squee. Using hyperconducting matter and components in elegant solution it is. But squawk! Easy feat to obtain such things it is not. A slug of semi-stable ectoplasm from St. Danaphan's fire you will need. This creature, you know, dwell in ogre's belly they do. Lie to you, I will not. Squawk-a-whack! Before the end. Killings there will be. At your fighting weight you are? Difficulty it is with featherless ones. Thoughy you must be. Swarm the ogre's belly does with Willow the Wykes. Slay one you must, then squawk-a-whack!
Come charging, St. Danaphan's fire will. Kill quick, 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 then bring out the ectoplasm you must. Is common, the rest of the material. Supply your needs for 2 components the crafting facilities at Camp Dragonhead will. Be sure of that you can. Squat! Reliable, Norberto is.
Upon slaying the St. Danaphan's fire and retrieving the semi-stable ectoplasm, it reads, only recently has it been discovered that the spiritual residue contained in ectoplasm is also an excellent conductor of ethereal energies. The more unstable the matter, the better the overall conductivity. Upon speaking with Norberto, he says, welcome to our humble crafting facility. You are a touch pale. A righteous bout of gathering, I take it. Crafting will put those roses back in those cheeks in no time. Curious sort of material you've brought. Best not to know more, I think. The crafting facility has a goodly stock of many materials. Help yourself to whatever you need. Do come calling if you need more material or need to spend more time using the facilities. How marvelous, you're finished. I must say that was one of the odder materials I've seen in a while, but now you have some fine-looking components to deliver. Do feel free to return if the components do not pass the client's muster. Your visits are always a welcome diversion. World's nicest Ishgardian. Hyperconductor components, upon completion, read a component to be used in creating the Dezelqualan's hyperconductors. And upon returning these to Jezuel, he says, not bad you look. Bad dreams you will have? Squawk! Happy am I to see you alive. Lost are many for a squirt of ectoplasm, but complete the components are. General condition, good it is. Wind aspected conduction, good it is. Quack-a-whack! Not the limit the sky is. Fly better, better, better the ships will. Top, top, top these components are. Fight you can, and craft you can, but more important, work you can. For the second of Ectal, the same is required. Squawk! But only about the skills it is not. The will to use them it is. Use high and low, day in and day out. Squawk-a-whack! In case of emergency, a wise Ixal knows well the value of auxiliary systems, and Jezuel Ahutan II is no exception.
Primary aerodynamo we have, but auxiliary aerodynamo we require as well. Nearly complete ours is, yet squawk-a-whack! High-quality dampeners we lack. For want of materials this component, we cannot prepare. Worse yet, held by the buzzards of Natalan they are. In silver pots for safekeeping, squirreled away these materials have been. Need them not the buzzards. Hold them solely to torment us they do. Squawk! But no longer, I say, no longer. Squee, squee. Friend and warrior Featherless One is, yes? Then agree to liberate the materials from their confines you will. Next to the crafting facilities of Camp Dragonhead you will go. Appreciated materials would be, but preferred component is.
Upon retrieving the auxiliary aerodynamo component materials, they read materials required to craft components for an airship's auxiliary aerodynamo. Who'da thunk it? Upon speaking with Norberto, he says, Master Tataruma's associate, I presume. Welcome to our humble facility. What manner of materials will be working with this fine evening? Pried from the clutches of the Ixal and Natalan? The things we do for materials. 'Twas prudent of you to bring excess as well. I shall hold on to it for safekeeping. As for you, my friend, craft away. If you should lack for material or wish to use the facility again, you need only say so. Finished already? Then I shan't detain you. Godspeed to you, my friend. Should you require aught else, say additional time with the facility or your excess materials, know that both will always be available to you. The completed auxiliary aerodynamo component reads, a component to be used in creating the Dezelqualan's auxiliary aerodynamo. And upon returning it to Jezuel, he says,
Squee, squee! Afeard I was that dead you were, yet stand you here alive and well. Our coveted component you have brought as well. In our talons the auxiliary aerodynamo component is at long last. Final testing we can soon commence. Much effort for small gain, think Featherless One? Squawk! Require great risks, great goals do, even if benefit obtained in so doing in small, small, small. Perfect the Dezelqualan must be, and to that end, inconsequential no improvement is.
We fly high, in parentheses, squawkin', close parentheses. To rule the skies is not enough. The Ectal 9 would do so in style.
What next will Ectal ask for? Featherless One wonders. Squee, squee! Quality decorative plating components we seek this time. Of the utmost importance soaring through the heavens in style is. Ornamentation for the hull of the Dezelqualan we seek, to further demonstrate our superiority to the buzzards below. Squawk! Yet held by the self-same buzzards the materials we seek are. Requests to share they would squawk-a-whack! Accomplish nothing diplomacy will. On subterfuge we shall rely. Deep within their ranks, a brother of Ectal lurks. Secured our materials he has, but leave Natalan he dares not. Render infiltration moot we will have him not. Behind enemy lines you must go. Locate our brother you shall. Yet play the part of foe you must, unless a friend he knows you to be. Amid the flowers to him you must say, lest to maintain fiction, slay you he shall.
Upon speaking with the Ectal 9 silencer at first, he says,
Featherless Ones within Natalan, die you shall for this trespass.
But speaking the code phrase, he replies,
Come share a dream. Friend of my friends, for you I have been waiting. Linger you cannot. Materials take to Camp Dragonhead for crafting. With you I cannot be seen, else forfeit our lives shall be. To Camp Dragonhead you must fly. With you I cannot be seen, else forfeit our lives shall be. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Come on.
The decorative plating component materials he gives you reads, materials required to craft components for an airship's decorative plating. And upon speaking to Norbito, he says, welcome to our humble facility. You needn't say a word, you're expected, you see. You need but show me the materials to begin. You must be very brave to venture so deep into Nathaland. Far braver than I, that much is certain. Now then, without further ado, your materials, the excess of which I will retain for safekeeping. A bit flamboyant for my taste, but so long as the client is satisfied, who am I to judge? Safe travels, my friend, and remember that should disaster strike and you need to recreate your components, I will be here. The completed decorative plating components reads, a component to be used in creating the Dezul-Qualan's decorative plating. And upon returning it to Jezul, he says, none the worse for where you are. With our brother you met, our components you have brought. Squee squee, fail us I knew you would not. The envy of all Ixal the Dezul-Qualan shall be. With the wind we shall fly, high as honor we shall soar. With wings unbending we shall roam free. To the earth our enemies shall fall. Amid the flowers of Ayatlan we shall live our dream. Chief Totolok thus spoke he. Ectal 9, thus we shall be. Squaw! And that is all of the Ixal quests done and dusted. Thank you all very much for joining me on this, what might be our last bonus episode of Mainline A Realm Reborn. Remember that you can catch any of these streams live at twitch.tv/officialpunguy, link in the description of the video, as well as watch the playlist collecting all of the previous streams and bonus episodes once again on this channel to catch up on anything you might have missed. But until I see you next, have a good day. Squawka waka.